Well, the ponds, they're growing like wheat. And old Dirty Dan, he's just trying to stay cool in this hot weather. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the foothills of the Smokies, another chapter of As the Ridge Turns. Now, it's been hot here in these East Tennessee hills. I mean steaming. I hope you all staying cool. It's 98 degrees here in the shade, and we need rain so bad. We got just enough rain to keep the weeds growing, but that's about it. So I hope y'all doing well. Please stay cool and stay out of this heat. You can see the old pond here. It's just about a mud hole. The weeds just took it over and the water's drying up quick. So relax. Let's see how the little animals is doing in this heat. Let's get started. The little ponds, they're growing like weeds. They're running everywhere. Just following Mommy around, her teaching her all about this ridge. The little twins, ain't they precious? So precious. She's teaching them all where to go, what to eat. And they're just so beautiful to watch. But it's so hot. And there's little Woody out in the woods. I know he's burning up. And there's a woodpecker out on the trail. These little animals still gotta eat, trying to survive. And there's a little cardinal out in the woods, still browsing. And there looks like old Dirty Dan sneaking through on a hot morning. But they still gotta eat. And there is old Yeller, moving up the ridge. Moving kind of slow, ain't he? Don't blame him. But these little ponds, they're exploring their new world. And they're growing too, growing every week. They're just watching and learning. Watching and learning. Hope they survive. Just learning their new world. And there at the log, there's little Chucky. He's feeding on something. But they gotta go about their business. They've got to eat, bring home stuff to the family. And there's little Ricky. He's out making his rounds this morning, checking out them old walnuts. And up at the rock, it's so hot, nothing's really moving around. But old Ricky's got to check out his perch, that's for sure. I'd say it's like an air conditioner under that rock, compared to out here in this hot sun. But there's old Dirty Dan. He's a-coming in. He's just going to head on in and lay down. Can't say they blame him. Such a hot day. But he's out on the patio, relaxing, trying to stay cool. Ain't moving around too much. Of course, none of the other animals are either, no more than they have to. Looking for water. Down at the pond, I cut these weeds week after week in front of this camera, but here's what it looks like every time I go back. But they're still in these weeds. You just can't see them. There's a little cardinal browsing around in these weeds. The pond is drying up. But about dark, there the coons is out making their rounds already. Whole family's out, moving around. And out on the ridge, they come down out of these den trees, just moving on through on a hot night, making a round. And they just gotta say hi as they move on through. And there's the whole family moving through. 3 or 4 little ones. Ain't they cute? And the baby possums is still hanging in there. You see them here and there. And the old big possums too, just out making a round. They gotta do what they gotta do. And there's a little fox moving through. They've got young too to feed. They can't stay around the house. And there's them precious little twins moving through. Pretty little capture here. And they just follow mommy around in these woods. Coming and going. And there's the log. That looks like Joker moving through. That's about it now. And there's a cat with name Smoky. How long will it hang around? Somebody commented to name it Smoky, so that's a good name. And here's the only skunk I filmed this week. Moving up the ridge, old Stripe. And the coons, they're just moving around sluggish. It's so hot, I can't blame them. Just take their time. And up at the rock, they just making around on these hot nights. Coming and a-going. It's so hot on these little animals. They do what they gotta do, though. There's a baby possum up the rock. But they all use this rock, possum. They just moving around, foraging around. Up on the ridge, the old coon just taking her time moving across this ridge. We know where they're going to. They're heading to the pond. They gotta say hi though. Got to say hi. And down at the pond, it's check-in time, but they're sluggish. They just taking their time. But they're there in these old weeds. You just can't see them. They gotta get right up the camera. But they do. They climb right over top of it. And they forage around all night in these weeds, this pond. But so does the deer too. They forage around too. I don't know if that's a buck or a doe. But as spooky as it is, they act like a buck. But they'll hang around all night till something runs them off. But come dawn, all the little animals across this ridge, this is the coolest part of the day. There's a young little buck growing its antlers back. And up on the ridge, there's the little fawns moving around. They just learning a new world. And these little young bucks growing their antlers, they foraging across this ridge at dawn. They seem to move good there right at dawn. Of course, it's so hot. And they just make their way around this ridge, doing what they gotta do. And these little fawns, everything's new to them. They got to learn. But mommy ain't close away. She's not far away watching them. But it's time for the little squirrels. Now look here. This squirrel is stretched out trying to stay cool on a log. Ain't that precious? It's hot on these animals. And they try to take advantage of these cool spots too. But they gotta forage. But it's so hot on them. They like to forage early in the morning, late in the evening. Now look at the tail on that squirrel. Ain't that a long one? but they've got a forge for buds and sprouts. Well, that's just what stepped in front of the cameras. God bless y'all. Stay cool, and I'll see you next time.